Sticking around. Thanks for asking questions. And just being a general part of today.
The handle moves the
We have a fun talk coming up right now. We have smart home expert Carly Knobloch. She's going to be discussing personal produce, reconnecting with our food. That's a talk with Jennifer Bruton-Farah, the CEO of Sprouts.io, which is right over there. Please welcome our next panel to the stage.
Good morning. Hi. I feel like I just rolled out of bed and onto a stage. I know you guys have probably been here for a while. I had a little bit of trouble getting myself motivated. But I'm very excited to see you. Yeah. Good first destination. You look gorgeous in bright yellow.
Well, thank you.
Let's dive in. I can't wait to talk about personal produce because for me, can everyone hear me? Everything's cool? Okay. For me, I think it's one of the things in the connected kitchen that's so compelling because it's something that for most people they can't accomplish in any other way. So in the middle of a Chicago winter, to be able to grow your own greens or herbs or vegetables right in your kitchen and pick them right off the vine and eat them, it's pretty extraordinary. So I've been following Sprouts.io's development for years and watching you grow, pardon the pun. Yeah. Tell me where you are in that process and maybe even just give us a little bit of an idea of what it took to get here.
Sure, happy to. Well, good morning everyone. Thanks for coming by. So we're Sprouts.io. We actually are right over there if you guys want to come and check us out after the talk. It's exciting to be here today. We were actually here last year showing our prototype unit, but literally today we have some of the first units off of the factory line. So literally,
that's exciting.
yes. So we have some of the first units, which is super exciting. And as a lot of the larger appliance companies know, it takes a lot to build a product and to actually build it fully and with the highest quality, which for us was really important. We knew that we wanted to, think about all of the details that go into having an incredible experience while growing your own produce at home. And it's not an easy thing to do. Getting the tooling together to make thousands of impressions, hopefully millions of impressions of parts and creating the system itself, it's taken us some time to get to this point. So we're really excited to actually be able to show off our first production runs today at the Housewares Show.
Amazing. And I mean, I think that for many of us who have never built a physical product before, let alone one that has all this technology built in and the corresponding app, I think I know from watching you guys grow and other Kickstarters that I've been a part of and sort of watching regular updates, it's so painstaking and there's so many pieces to the puzzle. One of the other things that I think people don't really have a sense of the weight of the decision is whether you are made in America or not made in America. And I think everybody kind of feels like, oh, everything should be made in America, and you guys are, which I think is an incredible feat more than people realize. So tell me a little bit about that decision to be American made and what some of the compromises are or how you got there.
Yeah, so it's definitely, I think that there are obviously benefits and, things that can be negative about making or manufacturing in the U.S. But for us, we really looked at the complexity of our system, which is not, it's not a small device. It's not something super tiny and only a couple of parts. There's a lot of complexity to it. So there's a lot of oversight that in general we have to have on actually building the product. And so in that case, being able to very quickly call the people that we're working with and be like, hey, what's going on with this? Like literally, I'll be on the phone and people from our team will be on the phone like 10 times a day, just talking with people on the factory floor and then flying in, which is an hour away as opposed to 12 or more hours away.
What are some of the 10 times a day style questions that you're asking them, as they're building your vision? What are some of the things that you've run into recently?
Oh, there's lots. And some of them are small things that you can just be like, okay, that's fine, let's do it like that. And then sometimes it's like, okay, we have an issue, we've built a part, we've made, hundreds of these and the measurement's off and we need to fix it. And, who's responsible for that? And at the end of the day, I think what's important for us is everybody's working towards building this, even the people who are, not technically part of Sprouts.io, but really are part of Sprouts.io. We call them kind of our extended family because they're building this with us. And so they're just as invested as we are in making sure that the product is amazing. And so, sometimes it's like, okay, how did this happen? And rather than kind of assigning blame, or you have to just be like, okay, let's figure out a way to fix this. What's the best way that we can do this and get people excited, and even on things that are difficult to kind of push through and make it work. And so I think with manufacturing, there's a lot of flexibility that you have to have in order to just do it and do it well, because there's a lot of things, like, you can plan as much as you want, but you're never going to be able to plan each and everything that happens, because it's impossible.
Right. So many moving parts.
Yes.
Literally.
Yeah.
I want to back up a step and give you a chance to really explain what Sprouts.io is.
Sure.
Because we kind of jumped into the discussion, but I want everybody to know kind of what exactly it is that you're doing and the technology that you're using to do it, and then we'll talk a little bit about what personal produce means to you in the connected kitchen.
Sure. So Sprouts.io is basically a micro gardening system for people to grow produce indoors year-round. It's actually a completely soil-free system for growing. We use what we call hybrid hydroculture. So that's a mixture of hydroponics, where the roots are fully submerged in water and nutrients, and aeroponics, where they're misted with water and nutrients. And we do that because it enables us to grow a wider variety of produce. So we grow everything from root vegetables like carrots and radishes, all the way to leafy greens and herbs, and we even grow tomatoes, eggplants, all types of fruiting vegetables as well. And that was really important for us because people at home, they don't want to just grow leafy greens or a couple of herbs. Like, in order to actually grow on something that can provide a substantial amount of food for you and your family, there has to be a wide variety. So we developed the device itself that has a number of sensors on board that really monitor the environment that the plant's growing in. There's a degree of automation that can be had with the system, with the watering, the lighting, etc. But what's wonderful is that you can actually control it as well. So a second piece that we work on, which is kind of the backbone to the whole Sprouts.io system, is what we call Sprouts.io Grow. And that's really the software infrastructure that looks at all of the data that we're collecting on the plants and how they're growing, and really optimizes how each type of plant grows. I think a lot of people aren't familiar with the idea, unless you're like, you grow a lot or you have your own farm, that plants are difficult. It's not like it's a one-size-fits-all solution for every type of plant. Each type of plant has a different need, and so Sprouts.io has that kind of learning ability to continually optimize how that plant is growing and customize for each type.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I live in Los Angeles, and even I can't keep a little meager outdoor garden growing. I'm not paying enough attention to it, or it's too hot and it's all dying. I mean, even though I don't live in a snowy climate, I still can't make it happen. So it's very difficult. I can personally attest. And I think I actually didn't know that you were able to grow root vegetables in a Sprouts.io. That's pretty extraordinary. I think that one of the things I'm going to be talking about later at the Innovation Theater at 2:30, if you want to come join me, about Connected Kitchen, and I have a slide about Sprouts, is that not only do you have to really create so much value that someone's going to clear their countertop space for a product, but it has to be something that they can't really do anyway else, and that's sort of where I started the conversation. But I think it's also extraordinary that you know that it isn't going to be compelling enough just to grow the greens and herbs, which I think is pretty actually compelling, because they're so nutritious and so many people aren't getting enough. But to be able to see that you also need to sort of account for some of these other root vegetables, so that you're really offering someone an incredible amount of value for that prize of the countertop space, I think is really where a lot of other manufacturers need to know that the bar is set. So let's talk about personal produce and kind of your mission and what it means to you, and then maybe we can also talk about kind of how you see what's happening in Connected Kitchen right now.
Sure. So, I mean, personal produce is the idea that you can personalize the way that the produce grows in the system based on your taste preferences, and even the texture of the plants, which is really exciting. So we work with a number of chefs actually who are very interested in looking to a fine degree how the produce is actually grown and the types of different flavors that you can get out of the produce. For some people who are growing at home, they just want to know that their basil isn't going to die. So we do that too. But what's really amazing is that, and this is what I get really excited about with personal produce, is that once people start to feel confident and comfortable growing, then the sky's the limit, because once your basil grows well, then you're like, well, maybe I should try this particular type of arugula, and maybe I'm going to tweak this a little to see a different texture. Maybe I'm going to pick it when it's younger so it has a little bit more delicate flavor. So we've seen people, when we test, they get excited about that because it opens up new opportunities. I think with the chefs, they instantly get it because they're like, this is like a new toolkit in our arsenal that we can just, instead of now getting good produce and sometimes even great produce from local farms, now we can actually curate the way that the produce is grown to fit our specific taste needs. But then when that trickles down to all of us at home who just want to have, delicious produce, maybe have their tomatoes during the winter, like that's the kind of thing that I get really excited about, that we can have that kind of experience and really having delicious produce and not having to wait until summer months to have a tomato that actually has some flavor.
Well, I was just going to say that we're so conditioned as grocery store shoppers to just, there's really only one kind of this lettuce, or there's really only one taste of this tomato, and we don't know that someone else has decided what kind of tomato we're supposed to be eating. So all of a sudden, if now you have the ability to grow not only different kinds of tomatoes that you've never seen in a grocery store, but tweak the taste of a tomato that you like based on your personal preference, and you're starting to learn about the nuance of nutrients and light and water and how that affects the taste of what you're growing. You're educating people and you're opening them up to something that they wouldn't have had exposure to otherwise.
Yeah, and that for me is super exciting. And I think for people, when they have that experience, like, when Sprouts.io in its earlier life was still a project that was at MIT, it was part of my master's work when I was there, I was working with kids at Roxbury Middle School. And these were kids that weren't really exposed to having a lot of access to fruits and vegetables that actually, in general to fruits and vegetables. And so when they started growing, and this was much earlier on, it did not nearly look as beautiful as it does today, the Sprouts.io. They wanted to eat it and were excited about it and to cook with it and brought it home to their parents because they participated in the process of growing it, and that's part of the personal produce too. But that, to me, was when it clicked. If you can get kids excited about eating vegetables because they participated in actually growing it, then we can get everybody to get excited about that, And
I was just going to say, it works for adults too.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing better than growing something in your garden and then just like grabbing it and eating it. I mean, my kids, when I did have an outdoor garden, briefly, I had one house that I lived in that had the right space and the right direction of the sun and everything, and it all worked. They would just walk by and like grab fistfuls of basil and scallions and whatever was I had to teach them to like not literally grab them and like uproot the whole plant.
Yeah.
But it just was there, and it was like a salad bar. And so it's extraordinary. And I think kids, if they're making dinner or they're growing dinner, they're so much more inclined to be eating dinner.
Yeah, eating it and also not wasting it too, because if you're growing it and you care about how it was grown, you're not going to throw it away. You're going to share it with your friends and family. You're going to make sure every one of those tomatoes is eaten because you were part of that process. And I think it imbues a new kind of respect for the produce. And we even see that with the chefs that we work with who, go through a lot of produce to make their dishes. But when they're growing it in the kitchen and they're clipping it fresh, like, it has a different significance. And I think that's when we think about how we can change the food system. You think Sprouts.io is small, but when thousands of people have the ability to grow in their homes and, professional chefs' kitchens and seeing like their idols who are making incredible dishes with it, like that has the potential to change the way that food is produced and distributed. Because if you care about where your food comes from, you're going to care about it even when you go to the farmer's market. You're going to care about it when you go to the grocery store. It's going to cause people to ask more questions about where their produce is coming from.
Right. I think we see it already with chefs that we idolize who have the rooftop or the backyard or the farm garden where they're pulling their produce from. It just is a natural extension of cooking to want to know where your produce is coming from.
Yeah.
So let's talk about technology's role in the kitchen. Again, I'm speaking this afternoon, and I'm really kind of pondering this question: where, what is the human's role in a connected kitchen? How does technology make a positive impact? How does it add a layer of complexity? How do we sort of coax the good out of technology to make positive changes? So tell me what you think.
Yeah, it's funny. I do get the question from people like, do you think that the technology of Sprouts.io takes people away from the experience of growing? Which I think is a very good question. I think that the technology in Sprouts.io actually provides a whole new lens on how the growing experience happens, because most of us don't understand the life cycle of plants. They totally exist in a different time phase. I mean, they grow much more slowly. It's a different thing.
Yeah.
So with Sprouts.io, I mean, just one of the aspects of the technology, we have a camera on board that actually monitors your plants while they grow. We do that so that you can actually see the health of your plants. But we also do that because it creates this magical experience for people to actually see how their plants grow over time, which most of us never realize, and they're so fascinating and brilliant. I mean, whenever we take these kind of time lapses, we're like, it is amazing how intelligent these plants are. But on top of that, it's like, this kind of new lens that the technology brings to growing is something that's exciting within the kitchen space as well. And so, at one point we kind of talked about, like, in the connected kitchen, is it like, your oven cooks all of your food for you, your blender does everything for you, like you almost don't have to do anything anymore. Mm-hmm. I think with Sprouts.io, what's exciting is that, we help to grow the produce, but you're cooking. We're not taking the cooking experience away from you. I actually feel that's really important because I love to cook. I love to actually have parties, have friends over, share food with my family, and being able to grow that produce and delicious produce and then make fantastic meals, potentially using some other connected devices. But for me, it's about enhancing that food experience, not taking the experience out of your food.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really the key, is like, again, how do we add a layer of ease to, or add something delightful that we wouldn't have been able to accomplish otherwise, not add a layer of complexity, and really create incredible value. Let's talk a little bit about security, because with every connected device comes an opportunity for somebody to enter into your smart home digitally.
Yeah.
So how, I don't want to say how important, of course it's very important to your company, but what steps have you taken, and what steps do you think are good practice for someone who's building a connected device to consider in terms of the security of the consumer?
Yeah, I think security, especially now with everything being connected, is really important. I think with all this new flexibility and the things that IoT brings to our lives is wonderful, but we also have to think about people's data and what can be done with people's data. For us, we care a lot about protecting that data, but also at the same time, it's your data. So you have access to that data. It's something that's important for you to have. And part of what's amazing with Sprouts.io is the data that we collect is actually shared amongst everyone. So the idea is that the system is constantly learning to grow better, and that's shared with all the Sprouts.io users. So that's really important. And by shared, I don't mean your information. I mean how you're growing your plants is shared. But it is very important to make sure that people's data is secured, that there isn't a breach of people's data. And I think there's a lot of methods that are being used today to protect that. But I think even more so, as the space continues to grow, there's other ways that will continue to protect people's data.
Where do you see your company going? Both with, I'm thinking of all of this data, and I think people think about data collection as this like nefarious thing where like they're going to use my data to do something horrible to me or everyone. And it's data collection, like the way that you spoke to it, is a wonderful thing in terms of educating these machines to do their jobs better. There's lots of ways to use data, positive and negative. So where do you see Sprouts going in terms of your physical product and then in terms of what you can do with all of that information?
So I think the data, it provides new opportunities in a similar way to how I was saying with the camera. It provides new opportunities to see the growth in a different way, and the data does that as well. So the data allows us to see how the plants are growing, how they can be grown better. Of course, that's really important information. Any kind of information that can help in making an experience better is useful. For us, we're looking at different ways that we're, expanding our product line, et cetera, in the future. I don't want to talk too much about that, but there's a lot of ways that that's important. And for us, it's, having a system that is consistent, that you can collect similar data on a consistent basis is really important. It's similar to running an experiment, actually. If you don't have the right kind of setup and you have too many variables, then you can't actually get the best data possible. For us, it's how we grow the plants better, and it's surprising. I think, we were very surprised in the kind of produce growing and agriculture, we're not agriculture, but agriculture space, that there isn't a lot of data that's being captured, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, because like 70% of global fresh water goes to industrial agriculture. If we were to just look at how we could more efficiently use that water for agricultural purposes using sensors and data, like, hello, it makes such a huge difference, But so the things that we're doing with Sprouts.io, I think could have larger applications as well, even in the agriculture space. And so, those are things that we look at, even the lighting efficiency of the system, that it's smart and the lighting changes based on how much light's needed for the plant and how much available light there is in your environment. We don't just constantly blast the lights the whole time because we know it's not needed.
Right.
So those are things that data can make better. And we believe in that power of data to make, not to sound cheesy, but to make the world a better place.
Sure.
And I think you're right that data collecting can sound kind of nefarious, but when it's applied, in a way that benefits people and benefits people's growing experience, I think that it makes a huge difference. For us, we want to highlight the great experiences around growing. We designed Sprouts.io so that it's dishwasher safe, so that you don't have to worry about, how to clean it. Things like that are like, they sound simple, but they're really important. So, the data in that way helps people have a better experience growing and making it easier for people to grow well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up by talking about your distribution strategy. You're coming to market when?
Summer of this year.
Summer. So talk to me about where people can find Sprouts when it comes to market and how you got there. What the process was like, was figuring out your distribution strategy, who your partners were going to be, where the product's going to be sold.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So there's a few partners that we're working with. We won't, unfortunately, I can't announce those quite yet. But yes, of course.
Sorry about that.
No. But of course, you can also get it direct through us. We have a mailing list, and if you come by, we're happy to talk to you more about what we're doing, and of course, signing up for our list. But yeah, how to get the word out about what we're doing, of course, is really important. We've been in development for a number of years now, developing the product and making it, as amazing as it is. And so we're really excited to launch this year. We're planning to be at the Aspen Food and Wine Festival if anyone is attending. So we're really excited about that, and that's going to be our kind of like larger launch platform. But we'll be announcing more on that soon. But we're very proud to be where we are. We've done it, as we said, we've done it building it in the U.S., which It's not always an easy decision, but we're very proud to be doing that and to be creating jobs and opportunities here, and to create great technology here with facilities that are just, I mean, the people that we're working with are just amazing. Like it's actually super inspiring to see how talented people are at really building great products here. So we're excited to highlight that as well. We've actually been, I will say we've been working on a really interesting kind of documentary piece showing the people behind Sprouts.io, so we're excited to release that as well. So there's a lot of people who have been a part of this process and making this product that make it as special as it is, and so we're really excited for that to be a part of not just the story, but the building of Sprouts.io and the life of Sprouts.io.
You've been running a marathon with like a whole group of people, so it is
basically,
nice to have that recognition.
Yeah.
Well, it was a pleasure talking with you. I want to open up if you guys have any questions about Sprouts. And if not, we can wrap up. And I'm so excited to see the product launch. Oh, was there a question? Oh, hi.
What sort of I came in late, I'm sorry, so if you could address this. Any partnerships with like food banks or other organizations along those lines with this product?
So the question was any partnerships with food banks or other charitable organizations? Yep.
It's interesting you asked that. We have talked to a few different organizations, some in New York, actually some in the Boston area. So we are talking to them about creating programs for people to be able to grow produce, largely focused on health. Some with kids as well. I mentioned some of the genesis of Sprouts.io earlier with the Boston Public School System. So yes, we are definitely looking at that. It's something that I'm really passionate about. So that's, yeah, there's lots more to come in that vein. Yeah.
Any other questions? Are you able to hear? Will you just speak up a little bit?
Sorry, I'm very soft. I started with Jojo. I just graduated from college. This is my capstone project. I'm also super passionate about the concept. So you guys up here. When I the product development for them, we're starting to push like experience where it can actually like harder to do something that a daily task would be like you're wired well and you're making a daily task like sure it takes probably 10 seconds. We're trying to tell them it should take 24 days to how their head of lettuce. Where do you look for like what other examples that when you take the selling experience like that kind of helps you talk about like the growth and it's so fun and it does really happen like you have to it's hard to create the right way for someone.
So if I heard, straining to hear you, but about where are you looking for sort of like what other people are doing, like other people in the space to kind of like help people get excited about it? Is that sort of what your question is? So yeah, are there other people in the space that kind of work in the Sprouts ecosystem to kind of just help the overall like messaging of growing your personal produce and things like that? Is that sort of your question? Okay. Sorry, it was hard to hear.
In the design, like how you think of the experience of design as well. I think for us, we are totally inspired by other products in general. Even here at the Houseware Show,
Yes.
We look at Espresso. I think they're a really interesting brand.
Yep.
They care a lot about the kind of experience that people have with products. I would say we really care a lot about that. That's like at our core. Every person within Sprouts.io cares about that experience and takes it with us every time we do anything, like literally, whether it's making business cards or a brochure or, you know, the product itself. We care a lot about how people are going to experience it, and we test it with people, and we ask people's opinions, and you know, we want to hear from people what works for them, what doesn't work for them. So I feel like that's, you know, where we come from. That's experience and user experience is kind of, I'll say, queen. It's the thing that drives us, because if our customers, you know, aren't having a great experience, then what's the point?
Right.
You know,
Right.
I mean, and we have to be able to do it well and consistently. So with us, growing produce is hard. It's a really hard thing to do, and to do it consistently. And so for us, it's, we can provide the kind of tools and the, the experience around that, but it's also what people make of it. And if we can say, we can help you guys to grow consistently, reliably, and take the kind of things that aren't necessarily so fun out of growing, like I mentioned, the dishwasher safe part, like things like that, then we're creating a better experience for people to grow their produce. And then highlighting the things that are really special that people don't typically experience while growing, like the camera, for instance,
Right.
which is, very,
So fun
yeah.
to watch it all happen.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me
Well,
on
thank
stage
you.
today. Thanks, Jennifer. Thank you guys all for listening and
Thanks for
watching.
coming by. And please, if you have more questions, come by and
They're
see
right
us.
over
And
there.
it's always a pleasure speaking with you, Carly. You have such a great kind of way of looking at products in this space and really understanding, the experience behind.
It's really exciting, and you guys work so hard, and it's wonderful to see it all come to life. So
Yeah.
thanks again.
Thank
you
you.
guys.
Thanks.